Hello, everyone. Oh, that's ugly. Look at that. I'm Alan, and welcome to our regular Anchor open source live stream for gardening. I'm joined by some of my colleagues either side of me here. We've got Alex, Chris, and Will. And I'll do a quick introduction. We do this every week, except last week where we were all in person with each other. So we didn't do one of these last week. But usually every Thursday we chug through some admin, go through some issues, pull requests, discussions, and we stream it here and it's saved for posterity on YouTube. I will just go through a couple of websites that you might want to have handy. Anchor.com/open source is the homepage where you'll find the links that I'm about to show you mostly. All the open source stuff that we're going to talk about, you'll find on GitHub, github.com/Anchor. Mostly we talk about Syft and Grype, but there are a load of related projects around that. And you'll also find the announcements for each of these streams on our discourse. If you go to anchor.com/discourse, you'll find that here. And what I'll do is as we go, I'll reply to this and add links to each of the topics that we go through. There's links to most of the topics that we're going to talk about up there, which will bring you out here. So I guess that's the fast intros done. Feel free to direct me to where we want to look. I've just sorted this as needs discussion and like recently updated, so ones that you guys have probably tagged recently. But if there's one that you want to do first, we can pick that.
Kind of an easy one maybe to start with. 3295, it's the incorrect crypto version when scanning. I think it's on the first page. There it is, yeah.
Okay, right. So this was one that was mentioned fairly recently, and I know there was a bit of discussion here about this is a custom build of Go, isn't it, that they're using? You know more about this than I do. Shall I shut up and let you do it?
Yeah, it's so this user is wanting to be able to see when like Go experiment flags are used for builds of a binary. So right now, like we show like the standard lib using Go 1.23.2, for instance, and the ask is like, well, but if I have boring crypto enabled, that's really impactful, and I want to know that information all the way at the package level. So like right today, we have, if you dive into the metadata of a package, like we have fields for showing like experiment flags being flipped on and off and whatnot, which is great. But this is not valuable if you're trying to do SPDX JSON or CycleDX, like so along those lines. Like um, there's not great support for being able to show this. So one suggestion made here was to maybe augment the version of for the Go standard lib specifically to leverage the plus metadata annotation for Semver, saying like, yeah, so it's like the version, so major.minor.patch dash pre-release plus metadata. And so this would be using that plus metadata to say plus X colon boring crypto. And so this is an example of the second to last comment. If you scroll down on how to do that up a little bit, right there in that last paragraph. So like an example, Go 1.23.2 plus X colon boring crypto. So we don't do this today, to be clear. And this was kind of like the first thing I reached for a way to solve this problem. Since the user noted below, like we want to be able to see this at the package name and version level. So, okay, I'll put this out there. Like, what do folks think? Slash, do we have any other ideas? And Chris, jump into it.
Yeah, I think there's one more thing the user mentioned that's important to all that other very pertinent and correct information. The one thing that was mentioned also is that you are able to build a Go binary with the settings and Go experiment boring crypto turned on. But if you have CGO disabled, the Go compiler will fall back to using the crypto library like it's normally baked internalized with. So we can do all this kind of detection all day on the settings that were sent into like a Go binary. But I think specific to his use case for detecting if a binary uses the crypto library correctly for a FIPS enabled process, you need to select both options, and then you would need to then append a field. Again, if we solved the very niche case of what this user is asking for, append some kind of field or some kind of format that says Boolean, yes, FIPS compliant, Boolean, no, not FIPS compliant, as far as that's what he's trying to use these fields to determine. So we have to go like a step further and look at if CGO was enabled to get to the answer that he wants to get to.
Well, if you scroll up a little bit in that to that JSON output.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So here, like see the metadata build settings. If you scroll to the bottom of those build settings, there it is. So there's so I see what you mean. Like just saying that, so at the very top of the screen, which is Go experiment boring crypto, is not useful because it might not be using boring crypto. That could be that fallback.
Yeah,
Well,
if they've disabled it.
Yes. Sorry. Flip that. Yep. But I think, and this is something to maybe verify, that Go crypto settings down below is a positive indication that boring crypto was used. And we're only going to see that say boring crypto if boring crypto is actually present and not standard crypto. So it could be that the downside is so I guess it is. I thought this was leading to, and therefore we would use this flag, but I guess that's the same thing that you're saying. I guess you're saying the metadata would have specifically something like fixed compliant one or boring crypto enabled or something, as opposed
I think
to
I think that gets like deeper to what he's asking as far as like, the use case he's trying to solve for, because he's just trying to use, snippets of data from the full package information to determine if his binaries are FIPS compliant or not. I don't, I'm going to do some research. The Go crypto settings, that's our own construction. And we're not just lifting the flag and putting it in there as well as putting it in Go experiments. They're two different things from the metadata.
it's
Or
if I remember right, there's a third party lib that's I think it's a fork from one of Russ Cox's libs
yeah.
do that detection directly based off of the symbols.
Okay. I'll take a
Anyway,
look.
some of the details. But yeah, it's different than like just saying the flag is on. It's a positive detection.
Right. Based on like stringifying the binary and finding the instructions in there actually. Okay, let me look.
And I'm interested in a particular question, like maybe pop it off the stack a little bit. So we just dove a little deep in like the specifics for this one use case, but I want to pop off the stack and say, do we even think it's valid to say this version is Simber, which because it's kind of not, and to slap on a plus something at the end, even though that is not there. Okay, yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to discuss is like the mechanisms there, regardless of like what we're going to express, the technical details, but like do we like that or do we not like that?
I guess I fall back to my usual. What do other people do? Like, do other people detect when do they other tools spit out an SBOM that has the detail of how the binary was compiled and what libraries were around and what crypto was enabled at the time?
Yeah, I have to go check. I don't know off the top of my head. I think I don't think this is common. No, having to know this information is common, but like I can't remember. I don't think for like a SBOM generator to show like the version having these flags on is common, but like big asterisk by that one. Like I have not searched for that recently.
Is there a standard image they're using, or are they? Oh, they're creating something. Okay, there isn't
Yeah, I
like
mean,
a
like,
ready-made image that we could test with.
yeah, I mean, but it's basically what he's got there. If you have
Yeah,
Seago enabled, go front one, you build something that has the correct import, then like you'll see those indications using the Go tool in M.
interesting. Okay.
So if not this, so if not using treating this as Semver, adding on plus metadata, do we have any other suggestions about how this would be portrayed? Yeah, I come up blank too. Maybe this could be like an offline sync if we're in the ideation phase too. But I think one important bit of feedback here, which is like, well, maybe we don't like the idea of treating it like Simber if it's not really Simber. So, okay, maybe back
I
to the drawing.
would, I think, okay, so for this user's specific case, I think we put a stop sign on we're not going the versioning path, but we augment the metadata of the Go packages to surface the answer of this like get crypto information function, which we have in that fork of the Rust Cox library that you're talking about. Because I just validated that it exists and can pull the like the truthiness of which crypto library was used. But if we like augment the Go metadata to have that in there, this user's case is solved. And the only thing we then have to determine after it's been included in like the Syft JSON is do we take his suggestion on including it in SPDX and that I think it was package something.
Well, that's his main.
I didn't see the field that he recommended.
Oh, yeah, it's package source info. I need to read a little more to see if that fits in there. I didn't think it did, um, from a cursory glance.
Yeah, I think we can get as far as including it like tomorrow, if one of us had an infinite free time, we could code up the fix where we augment a Go package's metadata to include, you know, this. I guess we already do include it. The Go crypto settings, like boring crypto existing there, that's enough for him to determine using the Syft format if their FIPS compliant or not. Because I just did the research and proved that. Like on my
Yeah, I mean, because he's asking primarily about SPX, JSON, CycleDX, et cetera, like being able to express it in those formats, and
Yes.
so that's why it's kind of come back to, so it's either we need to find something that can portray this in a kosher fashion in each of those formats, or goes to a common spot such as version. So
I definitely am against the going to the common spot that is version. Overview. I'm gonna look up. I'm gonna look up some. I'm gonna yeah. I'll find some other fields in the specification and suggest ones uh, for us in this issue.
then, unless we have any other specific comments on this one, I think that's probably the end of this topic. We can move on to the next one. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm keen to know. I've got other tools installed on another box, but I haven't had a chance to build the binary. But I'm keen to know what other tools do, so that we could be at least consistent or see what other tools do in case there is a standard, if that makes sense.
Agreed. We're all doing the same better.
Is there a favorite next? I'll start from the top.
I chose the first one. I'll let you guys choose the next one.
Oh, I'm just going to choose that one then. This, have we talked about this already?
Yeah, we chatted about this one already.
Okay. Oh, that one?
Yeah. Yeah, let's check it.
So we had an issue pop up where someone was suggesting that doing a Grype DB diff eats a chunk of RAM, but and the suggestion was like it doesn't work very well on a small VM like 4 gig of RAM, but it works on an 8 gig of RAM, so it's quite a chunky process because it's a big database and it takes a long time to diff those two databases. And this was filed because we think there's probably better ways to do it, or
Yeah, I can give a little bit of context to that. I mean, so there's kind of a couple of reasons. One is what you've said first, but what has been like the final nail in the coffin, so to speak, is we have this Grype v6 work coming down the pipe, and like looking at trying to implement, like re-implement the diff command, because that would need to be done. Like we would need to re-implement that command entirely. It's just a lot of scope. And so it kind of came down to like, okay, who's really using this? Do we really need it right now? And if not, then let's for the meantime remove the command and figure out a kind of a better way to put this back in.
it does take a little while to run as well. I mean, obviously, it's just getting the database for now.
Yeah, but then it's still gonna want to grab, say, another one, I think, and then yeah.
course.
thing, thing A, thing B.
I
So yeah.
perhaps should have prepared for this. Yes.
But yeah, then it puts out a big old long list of like, oh, here's all the changes. And so the nice thing with V6 is that we're making the field's content addressable. Now it's not going to have the digest there to use, but you can compute the digest based off of the values that are there. You can't depend on the IDs because for every database you build, it could just be totally different IDs. So hence like the more work needing to be done. But like in theory, there's a way forward where we look at that one table that would
Okay, I'm going to kill it now because it's ruining my stream.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we just all got Decepticon.
Sorry.
that are
Sorry, Alex.
So that's me.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's me.
Repeat what you were going to say,
a
Alex.
minute. You'll be fine.
Right. Okay. So 1 minute back. Okay. Yeah. So the diff command, what we could do in V6 is, which is not proposed right now, but use the blobs table as a way to recompute. So the blobs table is content addressable. You can look at each value, compute the digest, and look at which digests in database A are there and B are there, and then do a semantic diff saying, oh, these are new, these are existing, these are removed, and then kind of parse each of those blobs and say, oh, well, this is a new vulnerability, an old vulnerability, a new affected package, a drop affected package like that. So that level, there's more details to be worked out there. So the reason why this issue is kind of around the just drop it is because it's not clear who's using it and how they're using it. The output is very much like a human readable thing, not and so I think it's just for folks to quickly grok what the diff would be, and maybe there's a better way for us to do this in the future. And so, Will, you put needs discussion? Was this around questions at the bottom?
I put needs discussion partly because it looked like what the user was really doing was using it to figure out when vulnerabilities appeared. And I feel like that should be metadata that's in the database. You should just be able to do a query that tells you when the vulnerabilities appeared, and then we wouldn't need the command anymore. And so I wanted to understand. I think I even tried to ask this user, if you scroll down, whether their needs would be totally met by this, and haven't heard back yet. But I use this command to handle states of last modified CVEs, and so some sources don't provide modified date or create date. And so my question was sort of like, I think if schema v6 can put timestamping metadata in the database, then we could do gripedb search -- since or something, and that would give this person what they want with a simple query that wouldn't lock up the server or whatever. And that would be I think a better feature long term. So that's sort of the point I wanted to bring up. And I put needs discussion on it because we've had a complaint that dbdiff uses a lot of RAM, and then we proposed removing it. And so I sort of wanted to see do you think that in V6 or after V6 we can add a tell me what changed since a date in the past feature more easily than we can maintain gripedb diff? I suspect the answer is yes, but that's sort of what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, so to your suggestion of gripedb search -- since love it. We should write that down in the comment on the issue, because I think it makes a ton of sense. And yes, in V6 there are date fields that are kind of ubiquitous. They're going to be there for any vulnerability object. I think this is published, modified, withdrawn date. So those 3 date qualities would be there. But like you said, not every source has this information. So the hard work after the V6, this data shape lands, is going to be plumbing up the data sources that support it and maybe we put a shim or a stopgap. So like it could be like in vulnerable state, we persist that information on a per record level. Um, the upside being there would be dates. The downside being it would only be as accurate to your cache and when it started. So like we would say, so let's say we started doing this next week, then we would have, for the sources that don't support this information and we added the shim, it would look like we added all these CVEs next week, that day. So, but moving forward, it would be more and more useful. And so that's I think the answer to your question is yes, it's probably easier that way, especially if that's what folks are using it for. Then it's like, oh yeah, this is what you want. So
How well documented is GrypeDB diff? Like, you know, we have no concept of how many people are using it, and is it a core part of people's workflow as they get the new version of the vulnerability database, and then do they do a diff as part of their machinery? We just don't know, right?
yeah, we don't have any data regarding that. We
Do we?
I have a sense that it's not like something that like the vast majority of users are doing. It's just me guessing.
Yeah.
But
Do we have a loud deprecation warning on it in the code? And if we don't, should we?
Well, this didn't say anything.
Because like right now the workflow is actually pretty rough, right? Because you have to like get a list of database. I forget what you do on dbdiff, but it's like
yeah, it's a little bit of a clunky workflow.
yeah,
It
you need
can optionally take
you give
two.
it two URLs.
Yeah.
And so you have to like list the available databases and then decide which ones to diff. And I think so. I think dash dash since or something similar is a cleaner workflow, right? Because you don't have to explicitly download the old database and then open two different database connections and lock up your system. So it seems nicer.
Yeah, Chris.
So, but I think since is only only additive, right? And we now with diff we cover the case of destruction, where if a database shows if like a new database dropped some vulnerabilities, right? Then only having one to query since you don't have that perspective on like what might have like gone away or been like removed as a misfiled or whatever, which I understand that that's a niche case. I'm just trying to outline that that's something that would go away if we took that approach.
Yeah, it might be that. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, it's not as simple as like sense and look at a field. It could be that we're looking at all three of those fields. We're looking for like published sense, modified sense, withdrawn sense. So they're not separate CLI flags. It's one flag, but we use all three of those fields and apply it. Uh, More thoughts needed there, more designs needed there. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to like change this issue to be replace db diff with ability to learn with another way of querying for recent db changes or something?
So it's less memory intensive.
that'd be a much softer landing. So
Yeah.
and a lot of that's like some of those things are already in scope for V6, so it makes sense to soften this issue a bit. Yeah.
Can I rename it replace gripedb diff command with new strategy? Does that work?
Or just like with like search dash dash sense and that as a, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
we should retitle it and then also add like, Will, if you have like your specific thoughts about.
Yeah. I had so I just said discussion on our live stream, we had this idea. Can we add gripedb search dash dash since date to print information about CVEs that were added or changed since the date? Schema v6 would support that, and it seems like this is a simpler, more flexible way of comparing two databases. Swift CS pointed out that this would not allow us to detect vulnerabilities that we have deleted, but hopefully we will not delete vulnerabilities, but update their metadata and can include withdrawn out. first on that. Does that answer it? Is that a fair summary of what we had? Am I telling the truth when I wrote this?
Yeah, except for that last sentence, because like we're at the mercy of the upstream data sources. If they're going to remove stuff, then like we're not going to not remove it. We're definitely going to also remove it. Yeah.
I think it depends how. There's a lot of caching involved. So
Yeah,
I think it depends on the
different.
provider.
Each provider is different here.
Yeah. All right, I'll instead say things to consider is deleted, how to hit.
Because there's only one exception I could think of here, because all the caching tends to still be, it still tends to honor the upstream source. The only time we really drift is when NVD they fixed a bug in their API and we just have cache state from them in the past, or when Ubuntu or Debian, I think it's Debian, they drop off their I think it's Ubuntu, they drop off their vuln data, so we have to persist it in like a legacy section, and like so like they EOL something and they just drop all their data, and so we persist the data and just become the canonical source of truth instead of canonical.
A joke that it never gets old. Sorry, Chris, I started editing this. Were you editing it with better words? Because I didn't come up with better words for this.
I'm
this
going to
title.
post my comment. I changed it up a little bit.
Nice.
And then
do we have anything more to discuss other than, this needs a bit more work, and but we're likely to probably there we go. Boom.
So I can work on retitling it and just say
Sweet.
Sure.
Should we pick a different issue?
Yeah, let's
the
get
one.
Excuse me. Anyone have one they prefer? Oh, that one was. I quite like the look of that one. So, I chose one.
Oh,
No.
do we not do this?
This one's okay. I added it to this because it seems like an interesting request, but I wanted to try to understand whether we could do it, because right now we don't have a default. I guess he wants the default JSON or the default table? Default template for the JSON output, but the JSON output isn't made by templating. It's made by the native Go JSON serializers on whatever structs we use to represent the output, which I think is. I wanted to talk about it as a team. I guess I said why I wanted to talk about it as a team, so I'll let you all read that.
Yeah, I mean, we stopped doing that for Syft for good reason, and we just never got over to doing this in Grype. So we're in this. This is around making a JSON schema, using explicit structs for formatting and not forwarding core Grype objects to happen to be in formatting. So
yeah,
because we have some objects that are getting serialized that don't have JSON tags on them, and they're just doing whatever they do when they get exposed at the user layer like that.
Right, and I think and that's a little opaque to the that's a little opaque to the user. Like to his point, if he wants to write a slightly different JSON document from our data, he doesn't have anywhere to start. And I think that is a fair request. I don't know.
Oh yeah, this was something that we were literally. That's what I'm trying to say. We were literally going to do this in the Grype 1.0 work by doing what we did in Syft, which is capture a schema and then have structs that are specifically for that format, not just core structs. I'm searching
but it wouldn't be a template. It would just be a file with output models that have JSON tags in them, right? It would be like a Go file with output models, maybe even a JSON schema file, but it wouldn't be a template.
It wouldn't be a template. Yeah, I mean, because I misread, maybe I misread what this one's about. I thought this was like being able to have examples underneath a template path.
Well,
I
I mean,
think
it is, but it's for the default, like rather than
I,
like, yeah.
I think he would like there to be a Grype-o JSON.temple in this directory. That's how I read it. So
Same.
that he can modify it. And then the reason I wanted to discuss it is it's a cool idea, but it's also like a templating language is a really miserable way to write JSON.
So
And
we're
so
the JSON, so dash O JSON would literally just be a like go to the template, right? It would be a template, right?
I think that's what this person is asking for, and they don't realize they're asking for it. Hence the desire to discuss it and see if we can't find something that will
Oh,
help them that doesn't involve having writing our own JSON serializer in Go's templating language on the
yeah,
main hot path of
highly,
a main product.
highly
Um,
discourage that. Yeah,
I,
I think it's great to have a templates directory with examples, even if we wrote something that looked a lot like our JSON output, like that would be okay. But I would always use the standard like Go struct serialization approach, not go to templating. Because I agree, it's like you'd learn a whole other language.
Can we
yeah,
create like a
yeah,
mini? Sorry.
and the templating is about like text and JSON serialization is about like sub documents. So it's like like CSV is quite a bit easier to template because you can just like loop over a thing and but like
Yeah.
JSON you have to like do escaping right and remember to close parentheses and like not put commas after the last item in a list and it's
We also have to
just
write a ton of helper functions to do the subdocument stuff. So
yeah. So, okay, I think that we can't do what he asked. Can we give him something that will still help him? I think that was I probably didn't say that succinctly enough when I was put this up, but I was like, we can't do what he asked. Can we give him something that like
For Grype, we can land like the initial schemified all the things. We talked about this a little bit earlier in was going to be like our community office hours, but we talked how we want Syft to have kind of like a schema that it can just develop on until we're happy with it and then release it as the new bump. Well, Grype's not V1 yet, so we could release like the kind of proto Grype dev schema that still can be being fixed and
but
updated and added to, and that could be like what informs him that he can add and subtract from his output for the template.
I think I think that a schema won't help this user at all. I think discussing schemas is sort of a red herring.
yeah,
This user
I think I
would
took us off that down that path.
this user would like it to be easier to provide his own custom JSON format for Grype to write. And the
But that,
reason he would like it to be easier is so that it can be mostly subtractive, so that he can say, I don't want X, I don't want Y, and just delete lines from the template. And
yeah,
it's a
but
reasonable request, but I wasn't sure, like,
I
if
do. But what Chris is saying is like a really valid point, though, which is like, well, he has nowhere to look for the stuff other than to like code salute that structs. And
right.
if there's a schema, there's like I just have to glance at a document. So that's and you have to know what we're looping across when like we're referencing these templates. So like there's so I think it's not like a mutually exclusive thing. I think it is like make a schema, use the structs over the core structs is like it's gonna help him. But I agree it's not what he's asking for. Like I know what you're saying. It's like he wants like a document where he can like delete lines and get like
sorry, I wasn't allowed to finish my suggestion.
all right. Sorry.
Which is that like filtering stuff, right? Like we had a discussion earlier today where we're like, If you want Syft or Grype to output JSON, but you just want like name version type fixed status, like there's no good way to do that without piping through JQ. And so I'm wondering if we should I was proposing because we also have talked about on the severity filters, we've talked about like having a way to filter Grype's output. And so if we could have like a dash dash filter and dash dash fields or something like that, like a lot of sort of CLIs that expose complex data, like RPM info has like a little mini query language in the flags so that you can get the information you want. And I think if we had that, it would never have occurred to him to ask for Go templates. And so that's the proposal that I was trying to get to.
I mean, like the JQ, yeah, that's exactly what I was
The
gonna-
GH one is the best one, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, that one just feels like the right call because it's like, because in one way it just feels like let's not make our own language, like let's just use JQ, and like then the counter argument is that like they don't have JQ and they still want to get something out. So then like GH, they imported, a lib that does that, so they can expose out a JQ command, so you can kind of do both.
Right, but you can also like you have the dash dash JSON and he's listing top level keys before he even does the JQ templating there, right?
Right.
And like that would be nice. We often get the feedback, like like Grype dumps a lot of JSON to standard out. It's really hard to deal with. It's hard to filter. And so if we could just do like, Grype dash o JSON dash dash filter severity greater than medium dash dash fields, name version type fix info, and then just get a nice little one JSON per line. Like, I think that would solve a lot of people's complaints, including this one. I think that's something we should do before 1.0 and we can't change it. And I think filter and fields is a reasonable start. What do people think about that proposal?
Well, Chris, you had your hand raised for a while too.
Yeah, no, I think the proposal from Will is really good. I think the way you get to implementing that is by having whatever function implements that filter and fields has to have like the master document to read off of. And I don't think implementing that with the current input being just how all the Go structs are stacked on top of each other would be the best foundation for that feature. But I'm fully +1 into what Will just suggested. I think
what you said, Chris.
Go ahead.
I mean, I was thumbs up in what you said. Like
yeah. So to Alex's point that they're not mutually exclusive, there's a world where we generate all the possible fields in like kind of a master dictionary that then Will's feature looks up from and uses to say, okay, I'm going to start subtracting from this, and then this is going to be the final thing that I output to the user based on the filter flags that they put in. Because that's like, those query languages are based off of like that kind of known dictionary of all the things that exist somewhere. So thumbs up, I'm into it.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it really is step one, like do what we're going to do for 1.0 anyway first, which is like get a schema, use real format structs, not core structs. And then step 2 is we can build this on top of that. And I do highly recommend us taking a look at the way GH does it because it's pretty flexible. And I think they've done a really great job like solving that problem without having to create their own language. So
yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
I use it all the time.
What are the short bullet points of like some of the paths they've gone down to solve it that keeps it as like generic and able to plug directly into JQ and generate those commands?
They're just importing a JQ lib. So like that language is just done. So if you learn JQ, a lot of people already know JQ. You're just leveraging that pre-existing knowledge. It's a great holdover pattern. Like, and you have to implement nothing in terms of that querying. It's kind of a win-win.
And then are the filter flags just like facades for like JQ under the hood? So like if someone passes in, they want to filter the top level fields, then the internal JQ library knows, oh, you passed in these options. Let me construct this JQ command for you internally, and then give that to you. Like you don't have to write it yourself. You just use the flags as a shortcut to get to what you want.
But I mean, I think it's in the spirit of Will, what you're saying, which is like dash dash filter dash dash fields. It's very, very similar to like dash dash JSON fields dash dash JQ thing.
Right. And because it gives you an inline way to get only the information you want out of the tool that is friendlier than piping it to another tool that you also have to learn. Because we know the names of all our fields, and like we know, like the flags can be informed by what we think people want to do, like filter by severity or fixed state or whatever. And honestly, a lot of our feature requests are requests for like special kinds of filters by severity or fixed state or package type or whatever.
Yeah. The infinite number of options that could be added to Grype that just filter the output down, which could all just be zipped into one feature, which is the giant one filter to rule them all.
So, okay, popping off the stack.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need a new issue that captures the specific thought on this, because I don't think this issue captured it. And
Well, I mean, I was gonna comment here with and like rename it. I think if that's okay, rather than
Yeah, let's repurpose it.
I didn't. I don't. I'm okay with that. The only I usually kind of default to that direction. I looked at this here, and he's asking something very specific, and like I didn't know if what we're suggesting is like, I don't know if he would agree with that. So that's why I was like, it wasn't as clear to me on this one if he would agree with that.
Right. Well, I was gonna ask like in a comment. We can always open a new issue from my comment if he says that's not what I want at all. I want to write JSON and go templates all day. Then that's a choice. And
do it.
Okay.
Sweet.
So I've got like I'll post the comment and I can just edit it if you all don't think I represented it correctly.
Chris, do you want to pick one? Is there one that you added or that you're...
Yeah, let's keep scrolling. We did the extract full license text 2 weeks ago. High memory usage, revisit relationship naming. Group field. Can we actually click on... Can we go back? This might be... We have 15 minutes left or so. Cyclone DX group field not symmetrically handled by encoder decoder. Let's blow this up a little bit.
2981.
Yeah, let me pull this up.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I have last I looked at this was really June.
So what is this?
All right, so encoders and decoders, they should, if you encode something, you should be able to decode it and get back to what you started with. So there is a property, I'm a little fuzzy on the specifics here, that we are not honoring that particular behavior, which isn't good because we have this whole test in our integrations test. It's all about like doing an encode decode path, coming back and doing a diff, making certain the diff is 0. And I think we took out Cyclone DX because of some of these. Now I'm fuzzy on the specifics here. I can't remember. Does anybody remember what the specific group field is in question?
Let me find it.
It's one of the ways it can happen is with the at in npm package names, like @ / whatever.
It looks like a group.
Well, I think part of the so like @colors / colors, if you get a CDX JSON that has the @colors in the group field and pipe it to Grype, Grype looks at the npm package colors, not at the npm package @colors / colors. And I think the other way, like if you ask Syft to write a CDX JSON, we have a name @colors / colors, and other tools might have name colors group @colors. And like I'm not sure who's right. It's one of those things where like I don't know that the spec is super clear. Maybe it is, but I think Syft and like Grype is assuming that the information will be where Syft puts it, but other tools that write valid cyclone DX SBOMs don't put it there. So that's the sort of the question, I think. And it seemed like this stalled out because there was indecision about like how to make it round trippable. That's my adjective for like you can convert the SBOM to itself and get the same bytes back. Um, like how can we do that and maintain this property if like other tools are different? I guess the first question is just like, are we putting group in the wrong place? Like, is the at whatever slash piece in npm a group? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what that piece is called.
Wow.
The heuristic in your workaround, Alex, was just checking for like a contains of the forward slash or the backslash. And yeah, I don't know. What did we do an encode group here before? Because we took the whole package, and if we made this, let's do right now, Syft. Yeah, okay. So before, we only decode the group name from things if they are of type Java archive. And the PRS on that issue still hasn't landed. So we are only associating and building group information for different ecosystems if they are Java. And if they aren't, we just totally drop it and we include a blank group and the package name colors heads forward and we get false positives like the example that Will outlined. So I guess my question about this is the PR that's associated with that issue okay, at least as a fix to go forward? 1345?
I mean,
It's small
I think
enough.
I put help wanted on it. You're talking about the one, my draft PR.
Yeah. Without, it says this fixes the coding stored in group package. Without this, we cannot pass the encode decoding configuration test. We could also do a thing that
No. What?
without this, however, it would work.
Was it an existing pull request? Did you say 1345?
1345 on Syft.
But yeah. Okay, so when I opened up this issue, I only had the decode, and I see that Chris, you pushed the other part of this, the encode path, and that's doing the if slash is there, then split on it.
Yeah.
And the reason why I was holding off is I actually didn't know if that was like if you look at all the ecosystems, is that the right thing to do?
I know, it just solves for the really narrow case of like what's been reported for us.
Yeah.
And so, and if you look at my commit, it says pushed naive implementation for discussion. Hey, we're discussing it now. So let's talk about this naive implementation and say, what's the bar for the encode path to get this working?
Yeah, I mean, like the spec says that like the group represents like a company, an organization, etc. And they don't really say much beyond that. So I don't see any other kind of validation we could be like. I think it's very difficult to detect. Is this an org? So we already have some of that logic in this package supplier work, and there are so many cases that it gets it wrong because you can't always tell that, like, given some arbitrary string, is that a name or is that an organization? So it's kind of feels like that same problem where it's like, well, if I'm given the section of the string, so say I've split it by slash and I look at that field, like I don't think there's a canonical way to say like that's definitely a group or like oops, this was part of the package. Like I don't think there's a good way to do that. So like this contains a slash. I feel like it needs just one extra. Like I feel like this. Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think we can just like take the package metadata information and just say if it contains a slash and like it's for npm. Like this is probably a 90-ish percentile heuristic for npm considering the naming schemes that you have there. You can get group from that, but it does not apply. Like maybe we have a section of logic for each ecosystem since we have the stuff for the supplier. Or what were you going to suggest?
Well, yeah, and I guess that is what we do with supplier. You're right. I mean, like
Yeah.
for each metadata, we do a different decision. I mean, I would tighten up the logic you have here just a little bit to be like, if there's exactly one slash, do this. Otherwise, like we don't know. Because if there's multiple, it's like, well, this is, who knows? Like this is just something else. But I mean, but to what you're saying, like, yeah, I mean, because I think NPM is going to have a different answer here than Java.
Well, we'll just link the scope spec for npm, and so we can follow this down of if the package is npm and it looks like this, then we can do the group. We can also have an encode path for the Java heuristic for how they do groupings. If there's exactly one slash, we know it's going to be the one on the left, and the name of the package is going to be on the right. And then we can just start of kind of coloring in the lines as other ecosystems come to us and say, hey, CycloneDX should be reporting a group for this package. You guys aren't doing it. And we realize it's not for one of the package metadata that we've accounted for yet.
Right. So I think like you were saying earlier that like it's difficult to look at a string and decide whether it has a group ID in it or whatever. But it seems like for npm, there's like the canonical specification of how you name packages includes this notion of the at prefix thing, which is apparently called a scope. And so we could do it for npm, and like maybe we can also do it for another ecosystem with more research. But I like Chris's idea of like a per ecosystem decision on this, and then we can fix them as they come up.
I think we can also confidently do it for Java because of the decode. We have a decode function that only does it for Java right now. So we just reflect that on the encode path. Let me find the link for it. Syft. Where's my pull request? I'll link it on the issue. We don't have to waste more time on this. Okay, I'll take the action on running this one down and getting it like zipped up to where we do the npm specific path, and also the one that we have currently reflected in the master branch, which is for the Java archive logic for decoding the name. Thumbs up.
Sweet. We only have 5 minutes left. Are there any that are small, or shall we call it a day?
Oh, spin the wheel. Get us just.
Do you want me to spin the wheel? But do you want bugs? We have a random. Let's run it again and get a random. Ooh.
What you get?
SBOM action. Include support for SBOM assigning using cosine in the action.
I think we can close this one actually, because we determined we were taking that out of Syft, but I'll leave that up to everyone else.
Yeah, I'd say head to the next one. That one's from Neil. So
Yeah, it is from internal.
It's his question. So
yeah.
Okay.
I'll ask him.
Okay.
And it's also a pretty. This needs to be re-asked, so to speak, because that's 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of things have changed, both on like what we're doing attestation wise and what we're like willing to take on attestation wise. So I think that's got to get, I think, re-asked. So.
Camera. You know what that means? It means it's been an hour. Right. Do you want me to spin the wheel one more time?
We'll do one.
Yeah.
One more.
Ooh, false positives. No, we don't want that because we know what that is.
Interview.
Ooh.
That takes more than 2 minutes.
Extract dependencies. Oh. This one is in OSS ready. I think we've thumbs it up as an issue that we want to take on. We're not currently decoding this and putting it as part of the SBOM. There's this. Oh yeah. But did we link it on to this large meta issue as part of the NPM work here?
The monster one. I guess. Well, it got mentioned by Keith probably further down, or was it just edited in? What number was it?
This is 3108.
Oh my gosh, I've lost it already. 3108 is the
572 is the
yeah. It
end
was
one.
added in up here in the JavaScript section.
Yeah,
I do have a
tried to add in
question.
a lot of these. I mean,
I have a question
Go for
about
it.
this one. Like when we pick this up to implement it, we're going to start creating package structures for that dependencies portion of the npm. They're dev dependencies, right? Specifically, or is it just? Can you click the original issue?
Yeah, this
I
one.
said just dependencies.
I feel like we already extract the dependencies. It's the dev dependencies that we currently ignore.
Right.
Well, we don't put edges between stuff. Oh, well, that's not actually what this is saying.
Yeah, it's
the
saying we
further
only parse the
dependencies of
parent.
those. Sorry.
Yeah. Parent name and version, but did not extract dependencies listed in package.json. That seems like an actual. Wait, look.
Oh, I think I know why. Sorry, I had to re-recall this one. We look at okay. Yeah, this is a difference between looking at a source directory or looking at an image.
Right.
So our package.json. So it depends which catalog we're talking about. I'm going to assume that he's talking about the package.json cataloger.
Yeah, and I'm
Sorry, did I
assuming
go?
he might
You
be
guys get that?
scanning.
Okay.
He
I
might
thought
be
my internet
scanning an
wasn't stable.
image. No, you're good.
Yeah. So, but for an image, we look at evidence. We look at package.json's within node module directories, like you run node install. So we only look at name and version, and so we're assuming we're going to find all those name and versions across all of package.jsons that we find, which is different than when he's talking about a source repo. For source repo, we're not actually looking at the package.json here. We're looking at the package lock.json, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's because if he did npm install and then run Syft on the directory, we would find those things, assuming like they successfully installed, right? And it
Yeah.
wrote a package log.
We do a little bit of assuming where like if you clone down a fresh repo and have never run an npm like toolchain command, if someone ran an SBOM against the directory of that, you would only get a single package, which would be the top level package from the package.json. We don't parse the dependencies because lock hasn't run, they haven't been installed, right? But then it's like it's a Schrodinger's like, are they actually there? Because they're in the manifest and would be there if someone ran the toolchain. So there's a, how do you call it? There's a question of specificity of are they actually on the machine or not if there's no package lock. They're about to be, because you assume the intent of someone to run those commands to get the project working. There's a manifest that describes it, but they're not installed. But I don't think someone who wants an SBOM from us is pleased if we argue those kinds of semantics about,
Right.
about the manifest of them not existing yet at time of analysis, but will be at some point in the future.
So, okay.
So this is a good discussion. Like, is this something we would want to add, right? Where no commands have been run, but we still highlight, yes, these dependencies would exist in the SBOM if you ran the commands to install that from a directory scan.
I'm going to add a comment to this that's trying to talk through the nuances of what we think this ask is, because there's a little information missing, but I think whoever picks it up can fill in those missing bits by doing some investigation first. So I'm going to try to jot that down because it's been coupled to 572 in a way that we thought I was talking about edges, but they're talking about nodes. So,
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So
I'll
you're
try to
going
get
to
that
pick that one up as put a comment and maybe adjust 572 accordingly.
Yeah, I'm going to add a comment now to clarify. It's in ready column. I think we should still pick it up, but when we pick it up, we should it might be that we do two things. We add the edges, but then also maybe we add more node information based off of some of these suggestions. We just have to figure it out. So
Yeah.
Sweet. I am
All right.
afraid we're out of time, and you know, I'm going to turn into a pumpkin shortly, so which is appropriate. Thank you, chaps. As always, it's a learning exercise for everyone here. I appreciate that. I'll paste that comment. In fact, that will just do that like that. So hopefully everyone can see the links of the things we've just discussed. Thanks again. We'll do this every Thursday, and we'll be back again next Thursday. Feel free to subscribe, and also if you look on the stream over on the right hand side, you can see all our projects are on GitHub, and I put a little summary in there of how many stars each one of them has. And look, like Syft went over 6,000. Grype's it's a bit far behind Grype, but look, these guys, like, we need to get something on these. These are terrible numbers. 200, 764. Yeah, we need to improve these. So I think that's going to be. I'm going to go around. I'm going away this weekend, and I think what I'm going to do is bribe some people in the bar to log into their GitHub account and press the little star button on all these repositories. I think that's the only way to do it. There's no other way to do it.
I just see you do this. Excuse me, can I borrow your phone?
Yeah, that's it. Yes, show me your GitHub profile. Click. There you go. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you all again next week. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. See you soon. Take care. Bye.
Cheers.